The Ravens just gave us our first real look at what this team could be in 2026. Yeah, Baltimore came away with the win, but I don't really care about the final score as much as how they got there. Kobi Lane took all the hype we've heard throughout training camp and immediately backed it up. The Ravens rookie class as a whole looked really impressive. Jesse Minter and Declan Doyle looked completely comfortable in their first game calling the shots. And with some injuries at corner recently, we saw a few young defensive backs step up in a big way last night. It wasn't all perfect. There's some areas of the roster we still have some questions about, but it was a hell of a debut from the Ravens last night. So today I want to break down 5 things that we really learned from last night's preseason debut. We'll start with the talk of training camp. Kobi Lane, he's been making highlight reel catch after highlight reel catch, making plays almost every day, has been running with the ones in training camp. And the big question was, how's he look against an opponent? How's he look in this first preseason game? And he looked as advertised. He picked up exactly where he left off in training camp, had an impressive debut. He only played a half. He didn't get an insane amount of snaps. 3 catches for 38 yards isn't mind-blowing numbers. But when the ball comes his way, he's going to catch it. There's not many people in the world that have hands like this, and he attacks the ball with his hands. He's not afraid to go into traffic. That touchdown catch that he had, some receivers would shy away from that type of physicality. He was coming into some traffic, but he attacked the ball with his hands, wasn't afraid of the contact, used his bigger frame to dive it in the end zone. And it meant something to me that Kobi Lane didn't play the second half at all, wasn't even dressed. When's the last time you've seen a 3rd round pick for the Ravens not play in the rest of the preseason game, or at least not stand on the sideline with his shoulder pads on and helmet on just in case they do need him? This isn't Vanga Ioane, who we're going to talk about in a second. This is Kobi Lane, a 3rd round pick. You don't have the type of luxury usually that a 1st round pick would have where, okay, get him a couple drives, take him out, we're good. You're going to be a starter. Kobi's still fighting for a role. He's still earning the trust of his teammates and coaches to have a role with the ones this season. Now, he's been running with the ones all training camp, which is already very impressive. But the fact that they pulled him early in this game and he took the shoulder pads off and he's seen sitting on the sideline in street clothes with the rest of the starters tells me that he has cemented a role on this team. And I don't know how much Kobi Lane we actually need to even see anymore. I saw what I needed to see from training camp to the preseason so far in one game. I don't think that Kobi Lane needs to go out there and, play a ton of snaps, because this guy is going to have a role for the Ravens this year. We need that type of contested catch ability. And there were a lot of questions when the Ravens drafted him about him being a project. Eric DeCosta even said himself that he's a bit of a project, that he's a fun ball of clay, I think was the words that he used. They want to mold him and hopefully use a lot of this crazy potential and elite traits that he has to mold him into a very well-rounded receiver. And I think that's going to happen. The guy clearly is working hard and takes it serious. You see the social media personality and the goofiness and stuff like that, but go listen to his press conferences after the game and listen to how he talks to the rest of the team. He takes football serious. This is not a guy who's just out there playing around, and then you see the production on the field back it up. He takes the game serious. He's a competitor. He's locked in.
It's super fun to be a part of a hype train, but at the same time, this all can go down by one drop ball, and I don't mean to say that I'm planning on it happening, but I know very well it can happen. But at that same time, I'm still going to be the same person every day, still come to work with my guys and rely on them just like they rely on me. So I think being able to have that mindset every day, I'm just super blessed to be able to be in this position and rely on guys like this.
And he's definitely going to improve as a route runner as the years go and round out his game. I think he's going to become a much better wide receiver than we're seeing right now. But he already has traits that we can use this season. His catch radius is ridiculous. His hands are ridiculous. And he's going to make plenty of plays for the Ravens this season. He's going to score some touchdowns for the Ravens this season. Shout out to Kobi Lane. Hell of a debut. And the rookie class overall last night had a really strong debut. Vanga Ioane was a brick wall out there. He didn't play a ton. He didn't need to play a ton. This guy is physical. He looks for work. When he doesn't have a guy blocking, he's going to find somebody to block. He's quick off the ball. Dwayne Ledford's been preaching speed off the ball. He brings every trait you would want at the guard guard position, and it's a massive upgrade from 77 last year. Vanga was extremely impressive last night. When you go back and watch his limited snaps, he is a brick wall out there, man. Nobody is getting past him. He even said it himself before. Nobody's touching my quarterback. He plays with that mindset. He showed it in the preseason debut last night. And then Matt Hibner. We got tight end depth questions, right? Some people are questioning the tight end room overall. We didn't see Mark Andrews or Durham Smythe last night, which is a sign that they are obviously going to play a lot. But we saw a lot of Matt Hibner and Josh Cuevas and Ty Pezza. And Matt Hibner went off last night, was catching a variety of passes himself, was moving really well out there. He looks quick. He looks explosive. If he can improve a lot in the blocking game, I think he is going to earn some quick playing time. I still think he's going to be a weapon for the Ravens, especially in the future as the years go. And he's really going to carve out a role as the years go here. But I think he can have a role this season as a receiving threat and then get on the field more and more if he improves as a blocker too. Not that he's terrible as a blocker, but he definitely, that's where his game I think has the most room to improve. But as a receiver last night, I mean, he was very impressive. And so was the 4th round wide receiver that the Ravens drafted, Elijah Surratt. I know he had the fumble. He was fighting for some extra yards. That's definitely something that he can't have happen and needs to learn from. He was holding the ball a little too loose. But Elijah Surratt was carving people up out there. He's running some dirty routes, man. He gets in and out of his breaks smoothly. He had that one nasty head fake, was catching everything that came his way. He led the team in catches last night, 6 catches on 7 targets for 66 yards. And then Adam Randall, another Ravens rookie that played quite a bit last night, scored a touchdown, a very physical touchdown run. He wasn't busting a lot of runs early in the game. It opened up as the game went on, but I like how he moves for his size, man. He's a physical runner with speed and obviously has a receiving threat that we didn't get to see a ton last night, but he was a receiver in college just until this last year at Clemson where they converted him to running back. So I thought that he brings obviously a lot of traits to the table, but I thought that he had a great debut last night as well. So the Ravens had quite a bit of rookies that really made an impact very quickly last night. And I know a ton of starters aren't playing, but that's the point. You know, you need to see what depth you have. You need to see what this class actually brings. And they bring a lot. Jacoby Lane, Vanga Ioane, Elijah Surratt, Matt Hibner. Josh Cuevas wasn't bad either last night. Ty Pezza, undrafted free agent, wasn't bad last night. I thought he made some plays too and looked good. Adam Randall. I mean, there's so many rookies that are standing out already. It's a testament to them. It's a testament to EDC drafting them. It's a testament to this new coaching staff for putting them in those positions. The Ravens always have a rookie or two that shines, but the majority of this class really stood out and had great games and debuts last night. So very impressed with this class after the first week of the preseason. And we have to talk about the coaching staff because it was their debut last night as well. Jesse Minter's head coaching debut, also defensive play caller debut, Declan Doyle's offensive play calling debut. It's a lot of firsts for a lot of guys last night, and they did an unbelievable job. I thought the defense played out of their minds, man. The ability to scheme up pressure and bring disguised blitzes already. I mean, it's the preseason. You're not going to see the whole playbook. You know, you're not going to see the coach's best work. But Jesse Minter was dialing it up last night. There were multiple plays that the Eagles had no idea who was coming, when they were coming. He was blitzing multiple defensive backs. There were very tight windows to throw into. I thought everybody was doing their job. They were on the same page. And like I said earlier, I mean, this is not the starting unit. These are the backups, but they seemed well prepared. They seemed to know what they needed to do. We didn't generate a ton of pressure, but we didn't have a lot of starters out there. You got Broderick Washington, Aeneas Peebles on the defensive line, Mike Green, Zion Young at edge. I thought that they did pretty well, but we weren't getting a ton of push from the interior, but Jesse Minter was still generating pressure. Very reminiscent of Mike McDonald in 23 for the Ravens. I can't wait to see what he does with the starting unit in there. This defense was unbelievable last night. The Eagles didn't even score a point until the very end of the game. They were 0 for 9 on 3rd down. I mean, that is massive. You are getting off the field. What was our problem last year? We couldn't get off the field. It'd be 3rd and 15. You couldn't get a first down. You couldn't generate pass rush. You were letting explosive plays over your head. We saw none of that last night. Defense is back in Baltimore, and Jesse Minter has a ton to do with that. And then on offense, I thought Declan Doyle called a great game and really had these guys prepared. Those backup quarterbacks all look good, man. Joe Fagnano went out there and balled out. And obviously credit to Tyler Huntley and Joe Fagnano and Austin Reed. They did the job. They went out there and executed. But I think a lot of the attention to detail and the preparation by Declan Doyle and the way the game was called, but also playing a lot more under center, having a lot more play action, using more boots, running a lot more 11 personnel with tighter formations. Declan Doyle talked about how he wants this offense to be multiple, and we saw a lot of that last night. And like I said earlier, they didn't dump the playbook. This was a simplified version. You don't go show everybody what you're doing in the preseason. Look at the total yards last night, 440 yards to 159 yards. The time of possession, 41 minutes to 18 minutes. Ravens even lost the turnover battle 2-0. We had 2 turnovers. Joe Fagnano threw a pick in the red zone, and then Elijah Surratt fumbled it. We didn't get any turnovers, but we dominated time of possession because we were getting off the field. We were chewing up the clock on offense. We were methodical, and I was super impressed with the debut of this new coaching staff, led by Jesse Minter and Declan Doyle, obviously calling the plays, designing the defense and offense, but also the rest of the staff needs credit too. I mean, these guys were prepared and ready to play. Dwayne Ledford coaching this offensive line. I noticed a massive difference from the offensive line play last night. Shout out to this coaching staff. Another group that had a strong night last night was the defensive backs, specifically the corners, and we had some serious injury scares this past week with Nate Wiggins and Marlon Humphrey going down. They should be back next week. It's nothing long term, but it makes you really start looking at the corner depth, right? Because you're a little top heavy, and when you start losing guys at the top, you really need to have quality depth underneath. And I thought Keon Martin had another insane game. He got a sack. He was all around the ball, breaking on the ball, not afraid to throw his body around, aggressive near the line of scrimmage. For his size, that's special, man. And Keon Martin continues to find the ball, had multiple interceptions throughout camp, did this last year to make the team as an undrafted free agent. I think he's a lock at this point to make the team. Before this season started, during the offseason, I was talking about how that 6 cornerback spot's going to be a true battle, and Keon Martin is still fighting for a roster spot. But at this point, even a week into the preseason, I think that's locked up, man. Keon Martin is going to be on this team. Chandler Rivers was impressive. He didn't get a ton of time last night, but was coming in towards the end. He was making some plays. Bilal Kone, TJ Tampa, I thought, had a great game last night. These guys are really proving that they are quality depth, and I also think it goes back to the coaching a little bit too. Jesse Minter is going to put these guys in better situations than we've seen in the past. So I think the Ravens cornerback depth is actually going to play a big role, and maybe, depending on how healthy the guys at the top are, maybe we do keep 7 corners on this roster, or an extra safety, or, I think the Ravens are going to go heavy with defensive backs because Jesse Minter likes to use them. He likes to have a lot of safeties out on the field. He likes to use defensive backs. This cornerback depth is a great luxury that the Ravens have right now. Ozzie always said you can never have too many corners. I completely agree, and I thought that most of these corners last night had a really strong debut. I mean, the defense as a collective had a really strong debut, but was really impressed with some of those corners. There weren't a ton of lowlights last night, but this young special teams unit is definitely still a question mark. We saw Ryan Eckley, the rookie punter, have a 27-yard punt. He did rebound with a nice punt after that. And then we saw Tyler Loop miss his first field goal. It was a 49-yarder wide right. He also rebounded after that. So it's not all bad. It's not, immediately replace these guys or we're screwed on special teams. But I do think the youth on special teams, the inexperience, is still a question mark and is still something that the Ravens have to either address by bringing in more competition, more veteran competition, or just hope that these guys get consistent enough throughout this season and come through in meaningful situations. Obviously, punting a lot less pressure than kicking field goals, but Tyler Loop's going to be put in some meaningful situations throughout this season where he's got to go out there and make a kick or 2 throughout the game that ends up defining the game. And we can't have a missed field goal. Obviously, if it's a long field goal, I know they're not super easy to make. You got a 60-yarder or 57-yarder or something. You might miss one here and there, but 49-yarder, you should make that. And he talked about getting into the stadium for the first time last night. That was the first kick in that stadium again. He's been obviously practicing at training camp. They had the Maryland practice at the Maryland Stadium, but the first game is the first real reacclimation to NFL football with the fans there and the winds blowing, the field's different. So giving him a bit of grace. Obviously, it's one kick in the preseason, and I feel bad because every one of his kicks is like really micromanaged right now based off of how last year went and based off the standard in Baltimore. We had Justin Tucker for a long time, man, and kicking was never an issue, especially clutch kicking was never an issue. That guy did not miss with the game on the line. So the standard's high, and we're all rooting for these young specialists because right now we don't have any other option on the roster. So I wouldn't mind a little bit more competition, but also just rooting for these guys to turn it around. I don't think we can take this game and come up with a macro conclusion or narrative for the rest of the season. We got to see how this plays out. But I do think after last night, there are still question marks around this young special teams unit. But overall, it was a very impressive debut from this new Ravens coaching staff, the rookies that were out there, even the year 2, 3 guys, the young guys that are back again. I thought it was a collective effort, well-executed effort. There were only 3 penalties throughout the game. It was a clean game, cleaned the turnovers up, obviously, but dominant defense and a lot of young rookies, especially on offense, that were showing out. I was super impressed last night. I can't wait to see how they build upon this. I can't wait to see this new coaching staff with the starters out on the field. It doesn't sound like we're going to be getting a lot of meaningful starters playing in the preseason, so we'll have to wait and, look at joint practices and just wait for week 1 against Indianapolis. But I do think we learned quite a bit from the first night of the Ravens preseason game, and 90% of it is very positive. But let me know what your thoughts are from the Ravens' first preseason game. Who stood out to you? What are your main takeaways after week 1? What are you looking forward to in week 2? Let me know what you're thinking. Appreciate you guys for tuning in to another episode of Sleeper Ravens. Have a beautiful rest of your night, and I'll see you guys next week.